So in the March issue of the Florist Review, and I believe also in the Canadian Florist magazine, the topic that I decided to tackle is just different combination of material, different kinds of flowers that you can use. Some of the flowers that are not always seemingly to go together, but when you compose it in such a way by color and texture that you can actually create some really intriguing design. So we're addressing Tropical Nouveau, the combination of tropicals, something that's grown in the tropical zone, in along with the temperate climate flowers to sort of create a spring feel. Because spring really is not always that it has to be the tulips, the daffodils, the forsythia, the flowers that indigenously grow in different parts of the temperate world that signifies the start of spring. I think it is also about the color palette and how you can combine some really intriguing different mixes to create that feeling of the springy, the newness of the season. And so in this particular design, I took a ceramic container and I used actually chicken wire or Smithers-Oasis floral netting, which is the sort of the coated, green coated chicken wire, and created a little pillow, sort of elongated pillow that fits across the top of an oval opening in the ceramic container, and then I designed in it. The interesting thing is, like, instead of forsythia, we have the oncidium. Instead of maybe like the big tulips that we have the anthuriums. So we really are designing in a very open form, linear expression, sort of a very Art Nouveau kind of a feel, very natural, very transparent, very linear oriented, but giving you a really intriguing combination of flowers here. We have two varieties of actually anthuriums here. We have the Toyama Peach and we have the Tropic Ice down below. And so you have a couple of intriguing varieties of anthuriums, as well as one of the features that I really love that's tropical in this is the foliage, the philodendron Florida Beauty, which is a variegated, yellow variegated, elongated philodendron leaf, which really in fact complements the yellow through this design with the cymbidium and oncidium to go with and take you visually through this particular arrangement. The intriguing pincushion protea, which has such a beautiful texture, which is not as common in the temperate world. It is most certainly in the Proteaceae family, adds just an intriguing textural difference of surfaces that makes this design really a joy to look at visually from one side to the other. Also have the greens, the Dicranopterus, which, by the way, in Hawaii, it's often commonly called uluhe fern. I think we're quite familiar with those, usually in the fern curls that we get from them. It gives us a natural sort of tropical forest kind of a look to go with the other greeneries that's used in this. So really, the combination of actually tulips, the anthuriums, the ranunculus, complemented with the pincushion protea, the oncidium, gives you such a wonderful, wonderful mix. And being it given a little bit of a space in between flowers so that it's a little bit more transparent makes it a very kind of an Art Nouveau kind of a look, an open silhouette, and showcases the flowers so beautifully. The second Tropical Nouveau design is advanced because it has a method that makes it a little bit more technical than the previous one. And that is because I designed it actually like Ikebana, a Rika style in the 3-row method, which, by the way, means that it's a Rika style, which is that Ikebana terminology, Ikebana style, one of the oldest form of Ikebana design. And it's usually a very tight net, as most Ikebanas are. They're usually designed in Kenzan, so it appears as if everything is radiating from that particular mechanics. And this one has that same kind of a feel where it looks like it's coming from a very tight base. The interesting thing is it is designed in the ceramic rectangular planter, which, by the way, is actually designed front to back, like in the narrow. So instead of designing it wide as it usually is used, that kind of a container, it is designed front to back. And onto that, the mechanic itself is actually a cylinder that's being formed with a wire mesh by Smithers-Oasis. So it's a roll so that it has that kind of pillow-like effect that we often do with chicken wire. And into that, you design tightly into it in 3 rows so that it goes front to back. This way, you're able to get a lot more insertions into it so that it becomes much more heavier than your typical ikebana. It's not just a Earthman heaven 3-point design. It really is much more than that. So it has a very kind of a Western appeal. It has a lot more flowers. And using the intrigue of the tropical flowers in combination with temperate makes this a very interesting open form, open silhouette, Art Nouveau style design. In the third arrangement, which is sort of my artful rendition of design, floral design, and I wanted to approach it in a much more sculptural way. So I went without a container. I decided to go with a pedestal, which is really a 4x4 wood piece that's about 10 inches high. And the fasciated willow, which are so beautiful and intriguing. I think it really has a very sculptural look to it naturally, which were then drilled into the sides and to the top of the wood block that really became sort of the initial botanical sculpture. And into it, I wanted to design flowers to in a certain proportion so that it doesn't overtake that space that's been created, this beautiful nature's window that I've been able to create. And so by using water tubes as the main source for the water source for flowers, I actually attached water tubes to bind wire to bamboo skewers that are actually drilled into the top of the block. This makes it possible not to get too heavy with flowers because you only have so much limited amount of water source involved. But what it does is also allow the expanse, the space that's being created with fasciated willow to be very open, very transparent, very natural, as if the vines were just growing just lush around it in a sweeping sort of way. It's a very great interpretation of a very Art Nouveau feeling design with open form, open silhouette with a lot of transparency. I think the combination of tropicals and temperate flower makes it so much more interesting. The foliages, the calathea, the whaleback, all of that is so much more interesting than just being limited to just indigenous or just temperate climate flower alone. So it makes for a great statement for Tropical Nouveau combination.